Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next video, and this is going to be another kind of old Avatar The Last Airbender merchandise review, and this one's also going to be an opening as well. And basically, as you saw probably last week, I got an early birthday present of 3 packs of the Avatar The Last Airbender trading card game sets, 3 of those, and I opened them. And today, January 18th, is my birthday, and the other thing that I mentioned in one of my last videos, obviously I got for my birthday from my older sister who ordered it for me online. And what that is this, and as I zoom back here, as you can see, it's an old Avatar The Last Airbender action figure. I don't actually own any of these. I have some of the, I suppose, vehicle size class, basically animals, but I've never actually had one of the actual figures. So what this is obviously Avatar Roku from the Air series, as you can see here. You can see that it's in mint and card basically, but the packaging has seen better days. As you can see, it's pretty wrecked around here. And the back is actually better off because as you can see, this color here, the front of the card is actually meant to be that color, but whatever way this was like stored before they like shipped it out or wherever this came from, it wasn't stored very well. But anyway, you can see here some of the other figures that were in the line. Obviously Book 1 Zuko, Fang, Fire Nation Soldier, Sokka, Spirit Aang, this Roku, and oddly Aang in Water Tribe uniform. The biggest thing to note is that there are no female characters, and there was no female characters in this whole line, which is really bad. But anyway, I'll just go over the kind of back of the packaging because, you know, this isn't a new figure that you're going to find on shelves or anything like that, so not many people know about it. This is clearly from the Legend of Aang UK version of the figure. As you can see here, there's the kind of brief bio. The former Avatar Roku lives in the spirit world while it's all kind of washed out there, while his something telepathic spirit dragon Roku's spirit returns to help Aang battle the Fire Nation. Formal affiliation formerly of the Fire Nation. Weapons and accessories are Fire Blast, Earth Mace, Water Blast, and Air Blast. So as he's an avatar, you get an accessory for every type that you can kind of add into his hand, which is really cool. So I'm actually going to open this. This might be complete sacrilege to some, opening up such a kind of an older figure. Mattel obviously makes it, and I really have no experience with Mattel action figures, so this is going to be experience in that I'll be discovering Roku for the first, a figure for the first time in this line, and also a Mattel figure kind of for the first time. So let's open this thing up. I'm trying not to destroy the back of the packaging, but anyway, there's the card backing off, and let's see what we have here. Air bubble. I might keep this, cut bit of it out, you know, there's a nice air symbol there, so I'll just put that aside for later. Don't need this anymore. Put this away for now, and basically the good stuff, what's in the packaging. Obviously here's the Water Blast accessory. Here's the Earth Mace accessory, Fire Blast accessory, and Air Blast accessory. So that's pretty cool. And then he's held in with just one twist tie, which is pretty interesting. Because if any of you nowadays probably have opened up toys recently, you know that they're held in with a lot of stuff. Even tiny toys are held in with a lot of different little twist tie things. Sometimes even worse. And hopefully, that's a bit silly. As you can see here, he's kind of like, his feet are kind of through a little hole in the plastic, and so he's kind of stuck in. Let's get this guy out. There we go. Roku is out, and just put the accessories aside for a moment, and look at this guy. The head sculpt is actually really good on this thing, just looking at it now in person. Just the details on the face are like perfectly show accurate. It's got the obviously the head thing, the Fire Nation artifact that's meant to be worn by the Crown Prince that Roku wears. because he was given to him by Sozin. So there's some nice details here. If anyone, the robes are all rubbery, which I'm not used to on most figures, since Transformers don't have them and stuff like that. The weird thing is this, the arm. This is just a giant thing sticking off the side of his arm. Like, you can bend it slightly, but it's really weird, and the wrist swivel is kind of in there. It's really weird. But overall, he's like a nice representation kind of over Roku. Like, it's pretty like nicely sculpted in terms of like just standing there. So let's just see how he is in terms of articulation. The head does not appear to move unless this is just super stiff. It's kind of just looking to see is there anything there. It might just be super tight, but I don't really think you can get his head to move, because if you swivel the head, his beard and stuff is going to get in the way. So you can get a few degrees of motion to the left and right, but nothing much. This is obviously rubbery plastic. There is a waist joint, which is nice. Not that many figures have them. The shoulder joint is actually fairly nice. It's a swivel hinge. You can get a nice range of motion out of that. No elbows because of this crazy robe thing. And I don't even know why they did it. Like, does Roku's robes ever appear like this in the show? That's a bit odd. Wrist swivel, as I mentioned before here. Same on both sides of the arm. There. And then let's see this. This is not a separate piece, it's just extra detailing on his robes, stuff like that. Basically, there's his kind of waist, as you can see here. You can look at the leg articulation. Again, swivel hinge hips, more than just over 90 degrees at the hip. And I have to say that these legs kind of look like what were meant to be kind of a woman, female figure legs, kind of almost. It looks really weird, kind of just holding the thing up like this. So it kind of gets you the hint that, like, were they actually designing female figures and then they stopped? Because this looks like a kind of woman's legs, kind of. Obviously they're being covered. You'll never really see them like that because you can't really pose them without this bit being in the way. But wow, that's impressive. A bit of an ankle joint here, nothing side to side, which is a bit annoying, but that's okay. And then, as you can see, there's a little hole in the bottom of the foot, which is interesting. So, you know, he's not the most articulated figure. I always like my action figures to have at least knees and elbows, but this guy's missing a few important points, like elbows gone completely. But let's see, can this guy even stand up? Actually, it doesn't look like he can because he's got so much stuff all on his with these robes on him. Can he stand up? There we go. He's standing up there. That looks fine. The weird thing is the robes are kind of like molded so that like they take a certain pose. It kind of looks like you have to get like that or something like that. Like it's kind of like bent down almost, but it doesn't really seem to work that well as a pose. I suppose the back of this actually works as a kind of a bit of a tripod stand thing, and they can sort of hold that pose there, but it looks better just standing up, I think. Overall, it's not that bad. I've seen a lot of these figures in pictures, and but I've never really like held one in my hand, obviously, or stuff like that. I'm reasonably impressed, actually. I know a lot of the other figures like that don't have these crazy amount of robes and stuff like that. Like the Yang figure has like an abdominal kind of joint where it can kind of bend over like that, like at the waist and stuff like that. And obviously the head is not obstructed, has elbows and stuff like this. So Roku's kind of more of a kind of not what the usual thing is for this line. Usually they have more articulation, and yeah, overall, I think it's pretty cool, actually. The head sculpt is amazing, actually. That's some of the best head sculpt I've ever seen on an action figure, actually. Looks really like Roku. The most baffling thing on this figure has to be these huge things. Why on earth they thought that would be an interesting idea. It's almost as if, like, okay, like, could they not have cut this in, like, half the size of this thing and added an elbow joint or something like that, or just went with like normal robes thing, because it looks silly no matter kind of what way you kind of pose it. He always has these kind of like talons on the side made up from his robe. But anyway, let's check out these accessories. Start with the water one. And from what I can tell, all you have to do is really like, this is made of kind of squishy plastic at the top, obviously, so no one pokes their eye out, and it's kind of harder plastic around here because you're going to be like putting it onto his arm like this. And that's pretty cool, actually. That's a nice effect because it's like see-through plastic. You can see the arm. You know, the arm is kind of engulfed in water, spraying it forward. And if you get him into a nice pose, you could actually look like he's spraying it. Obviously, the head not being able to move, it restricts that to kind of him pointing it forward, but it's pretty interesting. Let's see. You put the air blast one on his other hand, and again, it looks pretty cool. Like, obviously, with just standing still, it looks a bit odd, but I like the way that they've tried to incorporate like bending kind of attacks into these figures, and not just like have it be massive gimmicks like shoot out fire things on the bottom or anything like that. Try out the fire one. And the fire one doesn't really look that good. It's not really realistic at all. I would have preferred it to be more artistic fire rather than just a block shaped like roughly like fire. And then the earth mace is a kind of a weapon thing as opposed to a bending thing. It's an interesting idea for a weapon, I think, if an earthbender ever did this, and definitely at least gives him something to hold, for given the way the hands are sculpted. But yeah, that's fairly interesting. I like the water one the best, actually. I think out of the kind of 3 element attacks, it looks the best. And then just as a weapon to hold in his other hand, that's pretty nice. As you can see in there. In terms of size comparison, obviously I don't have any of these other figures, so look, here's a Noble 6 figure from McFarlane. He's just a little bit bigger than him. Who else do I have here? I have Nadar Veb from the Clone Wars line. As you can see, the Avatar figures were a lot bigger than them. Let's see, who do I have here? Here we go. Professor Layton Revoltech figure. Not many people probably have this, so it's probably a terrible size comparison, but as you can see, Layton's hat makes him nearly the same size, but he's a lot bigger than Layton himself. So there's a reasonable size comparison, but the reason why I really kind of like wanted to get this guy, not just because he was the only like one of these figures available for cheap on Amazon. These things go for insane prices. I'll just remove the weapon while I explain this. These things go for insane prices on Amazon because they weren't really very popular when they like first came out, and that they never kind of sold out as such. And so there's a lot of them kind of out there, but the demand kind of went up obviously as kind of Avatar got more and more popular. Kind of season 3, I think they stopped making these figures in like 2007, and then kind of like book 2 was basically where the fandom hit its like highest points and stuff like that. But yeah, the reason the Avatar line didn't do that well obviously is because there was no female figures. They repainted like every single male character into like 3 or 4 different things. Like as I showed you on the back of the packaging, there's a normal Aang, there's a spirit Aang, there's a Aang and Water Tribe outfit, which never happened in the show. There's a Zuko, there's a Blue Spirit Zuko, there's an Arctic Zuko, I think there's another Zuko as well, but stuff like that. And obviously no female figures kind of put the nail in the coffin of the line. But Roku, why Roku? Because I happen to have Fang. Now it's a Spirit Fang, and obviously the Spirit Roku would have been a better kind of choice. But this is the Fang from the Avatar The Last Airbender line. Obviously it's the Spirit version. He's not named as Fang, but that's who he is because obviously we've seen this dragon before. And basically, I'm not going to review Fang as such because really, you know, he's basically a vehicle in the Avatar The Last Airbender line in that, yes, he has like articulation points and that his legs can move, but because he is like a 4-legged thing, if you put his legs here, he can't do anything. Put his legs here, he can't actually stand up like that because his tail is so long at the back. So really the articulation is useless because you can only really make him stand up normally like that because you can't do anything else. The head being the kind of neck being able to rotate like that is interesting, that you can like have a pose like that. But I think the best point of articulation on Fang is the wings, definitely. In that they're big, hefty kind of joints, and like you can really spread this like guy out. Like it's a huge, pretty massive like wingspan on this guy, and obviously you can sort of, I think, get Roku to kind of ride on him, but because of the kind of whole cape robe bit, you can't really do much. Let's just put him back here, and you see, like there's just the kind of the tension on the rubber, kind of just like making him kind of come off. But you can sort of get a sense of that, like he sort of fits on Fang, kind of. Yeah, you can see they really didn't think this out that well with the whole giving him insane amounts of rubber cloth, and that really kind of affects this figure. As I was saying, basically, before, these things go for insane prices. Like, I got mine for like €15, which is about kind of retail price when they were originally out. But if you look on like Amazon.com, eBay and stuff like that, you'll find a lot of these kind of, especially new, for about at least 70. Like rarer ones, like the Fire Nation Soldier, go for over 100, if not 200, like dollars online. Even just like more common ones like Aang and stuff like that are still really expensive, and like you'll be really hard pushed to actually find a lot of these kind of new for reasonable prices. Like this dragon thing I found in like a clearance shop, new mint in box, for I think €15 as well, and online he's going for like 150 at like the least, so you know that's a bargain. But you know, come to the end of this review, you can see the big massive flaws within the whole toy line kind of here. Fang is a character, but they've kind of treated him more like a vehicle, but they've made a huge flaw in the whole, within that logic, in that Roku can't really kind of fit on him because of the way that these kind of go. You can sort of kind of like get him in, but you know there's so much tension kind of within this rubber. Like if you can't just hold a position, it just springs back instantly. So there's a few problems, and then like I think it's very hard to, I think, pose this Roku in many good positions because of all these robes make him like very kind of heavy all over the place. Like if he tends to fall back like this or forward just because of the sheer amount of stuff around his legs and the center of balance. The baffling talon cloak arm bits are really just odd. But positives, I think, are just the head sculpts look amazing. At least Roku does, anyway. And like some of the other ones that I've seen in pictures, most of them look really good. They're like head sculpts and stuff like that. So just as like a kind of like almost like a statue, if you just kind of like have him posed there, he looks like a nice representation of Roku from the show. And then like just maybe having him kind of next to Fang, that looks awesome. Like just him standing next to his dragon, that looks really cool. The kind of just on another point, you get this missile with Fang, and it looks a bit more realistic than the kind of fire thing you get with Roku. I kind of would have more liked it to be a fire attack for Roku to like stick onto his arm, to be more like this, a kind of jet of fire, as opposed to this thing. But you know, overall, like, I think Roku's actually pretty cool, and like, if you can find this guy for cheap, I kind of recommend him, because like all these like accessories and stuff you get with him and stuff like that, they're pretty cool. And yeah, it's something, this Avatar: The Last Airbender line, it's something I'd like to collect if I could get them for reasonable prices. Unfortunately, not many of them are available for prices. Like, I'd love an Aang because he's my favorite character in all of Avatar, and I'd love an Aang and a Zuko, I think, are like, I'd be happy if I just managed to get those two, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen unless the kind of market for these toys changes drastically, and stuff like that. And obviously there's the hope that Korra eventually will get a toy line, which will obviously have to include female characters if they do it, otherwise that would just be crazy. But yes, I'm going to end the review here. Thank you for watching this review. If you have any questions on these like figures or anything like that, please ask in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and bye.